Hello and welcome to some space to steep this week. So inviting you to take a deep breath and lay your hands against your heart and invite yourself into a sacred pause for some steeping, whether it's abundant with time and possibility or whether it's just a little slice. Both are important. So calling yourself in, rooting yourself here on this land, in your time, in your place, and in your body, your own doorway to the sacred, wherever you are. And I'm going to start today with a reading from 365 Days of Goddess. I've been meaning to do these each week, and then I want to keep these to a certain time limit, and so I keep skipping the 365 readings. So today I thought I'd go ahead and start with that and just let us welcome that prayer in, invite that prayer in, and those reflections into our cauldron for today. There is grace even here in the hollow and aching times. There is the sweet kiss of the wind, the steady radiance of the sun, the solid earth beneath our feet. There are rivers running faithfully to the sea. There are flowers in bloom and bees at work and trees leaning in to touch thin fingers to their neighbors. There are wild petunias, pale purple and open-throated. There are goldfinches and indigo buntings watching from the sumac bushes and a gray feather on the stones. There is a white moon and soft, broad leaves of mullein. There is a rising and a falling in your chest, and there are waves that crest and slide into distant shores. There are people to love and chains to break. There is change to make and a life to weave from what you can. Reach out to those threads of grace. Hold on. I actually find that really helpful, that concept that we are all embedded in this web of life. And at the same time that we're tending to our threads, the threads are also holding us. So we're not alone. We do belong. And while we're tending to our threads, the whole web is also holding us. And that's something I find helpful to come back to and to actually visualize myself doing, like reaching out to the threads, reaching out to the web of life, reaching out to the threads of grace and holding on to them. In a long time ago, I used to read a lot of Wayne Dyer, and he uses the example of a trolley strap, which I think means, I'm not really that familiar because I don't do public transit, or I'm not in an environment where we do public transportation. And, but I think he's referring to like the strap that hangs down. You know, I've been on like airport shuttles and stuff like that, and they have a little thing that you hold on to keep yourself steady as you drive or as you are riding along. And he uses that as a metaphor for reaching out to the divine, to this idea that the divine, the sacred, goddess, it's this trolley strap that's right there next to you all the time. And you just have to reach out and hold on to it. And sometimes you ignore it. Sometimes you fall over. Sometimes your path feels bumpy. Sometimes you feel like you are unsteady on your feet, but the trolley strap's always there and you can reach up to it and hold on. And so I guess I have a similar kind of concept of this web of life in which we're all embedded, this web of grace, this web of divinity, this web of the sacred. And, you know, there are things, I think that's sometimes how I reconcile to like my own trust in the goddess with the fact that there's a lot of hardship and suffering and things in the world too, is that people act to tear the web. People act to disconnect the threads. People act to hurt the web. And so the web is there and it's holding you, and you can reach out to it and hold on. And at the same time, some of it gets damaged and some of it gets hurt, and there's people who actively act to destroy parts of it. So no wonder that we feel shaken sometimes in our faith or in our trust or in our practices, because we're thinking, how could this bad thing have happened? How could these suffering things exist? Like, how could this hardship be going on? And it's because there's a million invisible factors that go into, or a billion, a trillion, number that can't even be counted, invisible factors that go into constructing this web. And some of them can be hurt, and some people can act to damage it. And so it doesn't mean the web isn't there, and it doesn't mean the web isn't holding you, and it doesn't mean that the web isn't made up of a million beautiful things too, but that sometimes those threads are being damaged, broken, hurt, intentionally destructed. And so that, to me, that's part of my theology, or part of my understanding of divinity as alive and embedded in the world. Like, we're existing in this web of divinity all the time. And so, okay, so that got me into a totally different place than I'd actually meant to go with this particular Space to Steep video. What I really wanted to share is two poems that I actually shared as parts of recent community practices as we approached the Cauldron Month, and I wanted to share that pairing. But the first thing I wanted to say is the first little poem from the card is this one that I used in my audio and in my Cauldron Month my Cauldron Month audio and essay. If I squint, I can almost see steam lifting from a cauldron in the forest and smell change drifting through the air. I am looking at the shards of the year, some new broken, some recollected, some shining with possibility, and I feel the call, the urge, the promise to tip them all into that bubbling vat and see what she will steep me into next. So I really feel like that particular image is a strong visual image for me, where I can just see it. I can see that cauldron in the forest. I can see myself gathering up the pieces of the year, the things I've made, the books I've written, the goddesses that I've created, the things that I'm working on, and I can see myself like carrying them with me out into the forest and tipping them into the cauldron to see what I will steep into next. And then, so I had these two poems that I'd written, and they too came with these really strong visual images. And the first one I read during one of our community practice lives, and I just want to share it in a shorter version, because it too, I was feeling that sensation, which is what always prompts Cauldron Month for me, is that sensation of like being on the edge, like I'm getting to the edge. And I think sometimes of being at the edge, in the negative, where I'm thinking like, oh, I'm at my wit's end, like I'm at the edge, like if one more thing happens, it's gonna tip me over the edge. And so this particular, I was sitting out on the porch feeling that sensation of, if one more thing happens, I'm gonna get tipped over the edge. And our rune of the day, we were doing the woman runes immersion. My rune of the day was the rune of the day was the broom. And the word of the day for 30 Days of Goddess was laugh. So the rune was broom, the word was laugh. And I suddenly had this really strong image of, yes, I am going to tip over the edge. And let's see what happens. Like I could see myself tipping over the edge. So this was the poem that came from that. And the clean sweep was the prompt. So this is a boiling cauldron of all the things. Clean sweep was the prompt for Woman Runes Immersion. The broom was the rune for Woman Runes Immersion. And laugh was the word for 30 Days of Goddess. So I put them all together, and this is what I got. Make a clean sweep. Come to the edge and stand there. All your hopes and choices, all your expectations and your fears held in your open hands. Lean forward. Laugh. Set them all free to soar and to wander. Watch them glide away into the open sky. Settle into your skin, stripped back, scoured clear, whole and holy. Feel the delight you thought you'd forgotten bubble up from deep within. Feel your feathers catch the sunshine. Feel your power reawaken now that you are not carrying too much to hear it. Discover you suddenly remember how to fly. So that's what I felt. I could see it happen. Not only did I get to the edge, I tipped over and I remembered how to fly. And then I had a companion a couple of days later where I thought, okay, if I've tipped over the edge and I've flown away, now what? Now what do I see? And so this one came to mind from there. I don't remember. Oh, this was the Labrys, and the prompt was swinging the blade. So Labrys and swinging the blade. And what was the word of the day? Perhaps labor. I think labor was the word of the day. So this is another blend. So you've come to the edge and tipped over it, remembering you can fly. You felt sunshine on your feathers and wind on your skin and rainbows in your feet. Now you alight in this vast canyon of yourself, wondering where to go. There is much that will clamor at you to consume and control. There is much that will try to distract and divide. There is much that will labor to pull you away from exploring and settle the shackles back around your ankles as you dare to approach what you seek. You must be brave. Oh, brave was the word. You must be brave. Start swinging the blade. You must create a clearing in which to listen and choose. It is from this space you make that you will have the freedom you need to root and know, to flourish, expand, and grow. Clear a path to the cauldron. It is time to steep in your own life reclaimed. And I know we hit 10 minutes. I was trying to always keep these under 10 minutes, but one more little card that's going to join up with you to make, this will be even. I guess there'll be 4 cards for today. Startle me back to reality. This is a Cauldron Goddess prayer from one of my books. I'd have to look to see which one it is, but it's in one of them. Startle me back to reality on this land that I love, remembering my place in the weeds and wind, flames sprouting from my shoulders and roots springing from my toes, reborn each day beneath a wide sky, a cathedral of branches and a daily baptism made of mud and stones. Coax me into the cauldron that I might steep in the stuff of my own knowing, savor the flavor of my own mystery, and stretch my fingers into the singing recipe of my own renewal. Let me bite deeply into the choicest portion of my own life and be nourished from within, wildly and well. Such deliciousness there, steeping in your own life. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for making space to steep. See you next time. Bye-bye.